So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Carla? Joe?
Yes.
Lizzie?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, the July 28th, 2022 Governing Board meeting is now reconvened. The recording secretary will call the roll.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm here.
Lizzie?
Here.
Renee?
Here.
Corey?
Here.
Anna?
Here.
Brianna?
Here.
Carla? We have quorum.
Okay, will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I please have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Lizzie?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla? Joe?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. We're going to start off with our superintendent showcase. Dr. Maychek is going to share a PowerPoint to review the strategic plan process. The current plan expires at the conclusion of the 2022-2023 year. So we're going to start to talk about what happens next and where we're at now. Special note, this is Dr. Maychek's first superintendent showcase.
Calling it a showcase is a little bit over promising. But anyway, no, thank you, and I appreciate that. So a little bit of background. Back on June the 29th, as a part of onboarding for me as a new superintendent, the Illinois Association of School Boards provides a service they call the Starting Right Workshop, and it's an opportunity for a new superintendent to be with the board to talk about like how we're going to communicate and different roles and responsibilities. And one of the things that came up that evening was like communicating with our community, which led to a conversation about the strategic plan. And so the direction was that for this meeting to begin the conversation, just provide an overview of the process and kind of where we've been and where we are. And so that's what really today's PowerPoint is. So I appreciate that. Back in 2017, with the facilitator that District 50 used, the process was actually captured in a document called 6 Months of Planning. And what it did is went through that document just to go month by month, and I certainly will spare reading all of this to you. But you can see each month there was a very specific and very necessary series of events that occurred to begin the process of coming up with a community-wide plan for District 50. And so when you, all the way down to creating a plan after stakeholders and constituents had been able to provide feedback and input, then administration took that feedback and input into, and which you'll see in a minute, to create some action items that what would we look like if we were doing that in our schools. And then that was brought to the board. And of course there was a whole communication piece that how would we share this with the community, what will it look like, the messaging, the branding, and all that part of it that our communications manager would take care of. And then in February of 2018, the board voted on a 5-year strategic plan that began in the fall of 2018. Questions yet, or please feel free just to stop me. But so the plan that we have now and what was developed is you can see the 5 goal areas that, based on community input and participation, that our board came up with. And then under each of those goal areas, there are 2 specific goals with 2 or 3 bullet-pointed initiatives, the action items that we would create or complete under those 2 goals. And then delineated further by administration was what would we do for that goal, or when would that goal be, or that benchmark be met or addressed over the 5 years of the plan. And so I just picked student learning because it fit on one page for the sake of the PowerPoint, and just to show you what that kind of looked like, what we thought we were doing and what we were trying to do each year. And I actually shared this part of my presentation with a couple of my administrative colleagues, because I want to be very clear, not to be critical, but in terms of creating a robust plan that is actually a living and evolving document, that I think is what this type of plan should be. When you look at like the X's happening in fiscal year 19 or 20, kind of the tendency sometimes is that, okay, good, we're done with that. Like if you close the binder and you put it on the shelf, and then we don't talk about intensifying opportunities to consistently deliver instruction anymore because we did that 3 years ago. And like, well, we've done that, we're done. But I think one of the things that I think is necessary as part of a plan is revisiting these things regularly. Certainly intensifying our efforts at some point, if we don't have it, like when and how do you put that in place. But there has to be some sort of mechanism to go back and monitor, are we still doing it? And then are we still doing it effectively? And so, but the overall cost for that entire plan, from the consultant meeting with people back in the fall of 17 to delivering a presentation to the board in February of 18, was $15,700, which is fairly high, in my opinion, for that kind of work. So in terms of what happens next, or where do we go? One of the things that has certainly not lost on any of us in this room is just kind of the world that we're living in, and how different it is for our kids than maybe we grew up, or certainly our parents grew up in. And just in terms of the kinds of conversations that we have administratively now deal with equity, culturally responsive teaching, are we engaging all of our learners, bringing kids back after the pandemic, and the importance of SEL instruction, as well as the learning losses that occurred when students were remote or not tuned in or not on their screens at home. SEL components, things like second step and close gap, and how effective is that, and how are we using it, and how are we using the feedback that we're getting. Digital citizenship, online bullying, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of our favorite things to deal with as educators and officers of the law. And then certainly bilingualism, and how are we honoring and recognizing our students' ethnicities and cultures when they come into our classrooms, and prepared to honor them. So, and then of course, nothing we can really do about, but then trying to do all that when, by the state's own recognition, they're not giving us the funds that we need to do the things that we're trying to do for our students and their families. And then you have other legal challenges like charter schools and things like that that take money that is supposed to go to our students for their education. So lots of things that, certainly these are not all new since 2018, but certainly much more regular components of the discussions that we have at the school and the district level since the creation of the last strategic plan. So one of the things that in preparation for, and not necessarily tonight, but in preparation for trying to work with the board on a new strategic plan, I tried to pull some more current resources. One of the coolest things that I read is actually from Harvard Business Review, which I like because everything's like 3 or 4 pages and kind of summarized. But Roger Martin wrote this, and this idea of fear and discomfort, if you go back to this list, there's a lot of things on here that have the potential to make, in some way, shape, or form, somebody uncomfortable, either talking about it, working with it, dealing with it, addressing it head on. But if this is legit and accurate, I think that part of a new plan for us has to be, those issues are with us, and they're with our kids, and they're with our teachers, and they're with our families. And so are we going to ignore them, or are we going to tackle them head on? And if you think about what a safe plan looks like versus one that's, Lene and I talk about Senator Lewis and good trouble, right? But if you have a plan that's based on a little bit of fear and discomfort, we're going to be going to places and addressing things that need to be gone to and addressed that up until now, we really haven't had a roadmap to do. And I think that's kind of a really positive part of having this sort of a lens or perspective as we're coming up with a new plan. Because if it's safe, why bother? Because we're already doing it, we already know we're good at it. So effective strategic planning. Again, this is all from this article, but I think there were some really common sense suggestions that we're going to keep strategy statements simple. What are we going to do and how are we going to do it? I'm sorry, but it's just as an example, to intensify opportunities to consistently deliver instruction that is differentiated to meet all student needs. Kind of a complicated statement, not necessarily keeping what we're trying to do simple so that the people we need to continue to work on that daily actually know what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So keep strategy statement simple. Recognize that strategy is not about perfection. The idea is it's a moving target, but it's a goal. And if we don't hit the goal, at least we're moving in the right direction, and we're getting better as a district. We're getting better, most importantly, for our children. And that's really what this plan ought to be about. That we may not be perfect, but we're going to improve. And I think that's really the bottom line for our kids. Make the logic of the plan explicit. Where this is important is, for example, let's say that we have a goal that we're going to teach every staff member, every teacher about restorative practices. Well, implied in that goal statement is the fact that, first of all, that we have somebody that we know who can deliver that professional development. Number two, that we have a staff that is wants that professional development. And number three, that we know where and how we're going to use those types of conversations and that concept in our day-to-day leadership of the school and of our classrooms. So that may or may not be true in all cases and with all goal areas or all benchmark statements. So this idea of having conversations about what's underlying the why behind those statements, I think, is really important, and perhaps those have happened. If they have with the current plan, that's great, but I think it's just important to understand there's some assumptions we make about some things that are or aren't in place when we make these statements, and Martin says that that's really important to keep in mind. And then don't confuse a plan with a strategy. So simple example of that would be like a district budget, that the budget is the plan. But how do you deliver instruction? How do you procure resources? How do you help teachers grow professionally within the amount of money that you've been allocated? There's the strategy. So, saying that we're going to do something or that by this year, by this time, we want it to be at this certain place, that's not the same as having a strategy to get there. And maybe that's common sense. But as we go through the plan, what I'm going to be doing, just as someone who's going to be in charge of making sure that we can implement the plan, is continuing to ask, like, is this the plan or is this a strategy? So I just thought that was a kind of an interesting statement and something to keep in mind. So different models that we could use, some fit for our purposes and some don't. I just wanted to, I only bring up this slide to share with the board that as you consider where and how you want to proceed, there's a lot of different ways to go. So the alignment model really has to do with IT, and it would, my research on it was a lot more about corporate strategy, that if, for example, you already knew what you wanted to do, but you're trying to do it better or more efficiently by using some sort of software or a new device or some sort of new technology, you would create goals around not necessarily being able to do something new, but more about being able to do it better, faster, cheaper with a certain piece of technology, and I don't think that that's really what we're going for. Balanced scorecard is really more about your planning process. So this would be, hey, we have 5 social workers in the district. How can we best utilize those social workers? Not like starting with an end in mind and saying, well, here's what we need to get to this point, but saying, like, here's resources we have, and what's the best way to use them? And a plan that's developed on that kind of mindset would be what they would call a balanced scorecard. The basic is kind of what most school district strategic plans look like. We've identified a vision and mission. We've identified some goals that support that vision and mission, and then we come up with some action items to say if we do these things, we should get closer to that, reaching that vision and mission. Blue ocean is kind of like what Jim Collins, if you're familiar with Good to Great, calls like the hedgehog effect. Like, what do you do really well, and then how can you kind of exploit that in a way that no one else is doing? And for schools, it would be kind of like if you had a school that was, some sort of, on the cutting edge of like non-graded, or back in the day, when I was at Mundelein High School, we were doing a lot with portfolio assessment, for example, that no one else was doing. And, so that creating a plan based on some new or innovation that you're trying to roll out, or some new idea that's not been tried before, that you're kind of the trailblazer for. If your plan had a lot of that in it, that's what at least the article referred to as the blue ocean, as opposed to red ocean, where everyone's doing it, and now you have to figure out how to do it as good or better than everybody else. My wife works in the corporate world, and she, we talk about it all the time, and I'm glad we but the one that probably is closest to what we're trying to do is the issue-based. So there's basically it's the basic plan, but then you do that SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and then threats, right? And so what most plans are is we have an opportunity, or we have a goal that there's a segment of our community, whether it's students, whether it's finances, whether it's technology, that we want to improve upon and or implement altogether that we don't have. And now the plan is going to be, how do you take that, given our vision and mission and then our goals, and then how can we implement this new thing or try this new thing that we've never seen before. And I think that's kind of where, if I had to guess, where we'd want to head, but again, I just throwing all these out. So next steps. Based on this conversation, would be helpful to get some direction at the August meeting in terms of what you would like me to do, or how to proceed, whether it's to bring in possible consultants, or if the board has identified someone that they would like us to work with to lead this process with us, determine what kind of strategic plan that do we want, what kind of, based on those 5 kind of templates, where do you see us going, and what should be accomplished in a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan, or however long whatever temporal element the board puts on it. Then determine the process and the timeline, much like the 6 months of planning that I started with. So are we going to start in September? Some of the districts that I know in my previous, down in Evergreen Park, for example, we would start around Thanksgiving, that process, and then we would come to the board in January or February with, with something to approve. I talked to Courtney Orzel, who is with the IASA, and she does a lot of strategic planning. She suggested we start, late February, early March, and go through, and then we would have something to present to the board if you started that. Same kind of timeline, just rather than starting in August and ending in February, starting in early spring and ending near the end of the school year. But then again, to identify the facilitator, the people that I've talked to, I know the districts that I'm aware of that have recently completed plans. The cost was between more aligned with $8,000 and $10,000. Okay, still a lot of money, but that's the going rate if you want to go that route. And then we would have to determine how to communicate the status of where we are with our families and our constituencies, because then if you're going to have focus groups, or we're going to have, and invite parents or students or staff members to be part of these various committees, then what would that look like, and when would we do that? The other piece that I wanted to identify in terms of whatever the plan looks like, and what I think is really important, in my previous districts, there was I don't know to whom the quote is attributed, but I think it's really true, and that is, what gets measured gets done. And unfortunately, some of my experience early on as a superintendent was, you do the plan, everyone's happy with the plan, and you put it in a binder, and then you don't really do anything with it. What was much more effective for me, administratively, is when we had 5 goal areas every month at our administrative meetings, the person who was sort of in charge of that goal area, whether it was building and grounds, or whether it was our technology director, or our business manager, or our curriculum person, would present on like where we are right now on that goal, and what progress have we made since the last update. And then that translated into a kind of standing reports for the board. To say, here's where we are, here's a roadblock, or here's where we're stuck a little bit, but here's some accomplishments. And it was a way for the community to celebrate when things were done and we actually saw movement. And then it was also a way to problem solve. And we said, well, this is what we thought we wanted to do, but we're running up against this barrier or whatever. So I would just want to keep, in some way, shape, or form, whatever plan that we have at the forefront of the conversation, not only for my teams administratively, but also keep the board apprised and be able to share regular reports at these types of monthly meetings. So that's it. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? I
Nice
think,
first showcase.
sorry,
It's a nice first showcase.
nice first showcase.
Showcase, I don't know, but thank you. I appreciate it.
When I first came on the board 6 years ago, we were working on a strategic plan. I guess it's 5 years ago, but we worked on a strategic plan almost right away. And it was just an invaluable process because it gave us a chance to really get to know the district. And even though we knew it, like we got to meet a lot of people, we got to really hear about a lot of what was going on and what needed work. Then COVID and everything that hit around that really made us pretty reaction based, as a district, which of course was going to happen. But it just sounds really good to get back to planning for the future again. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So moving on, we have the citizen statements. So the board invites members of the public to address the board. Anyone wishing to address the board is recommended to wear a mask. Oh, you don't have to do that anymore. If you did not sign up online, please use the sheet. We have one person who signed up. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Elena McNamara?
Hi.
Did I get that right?
Elena, very close.
Elaine, okay.
Yeah.
So would you like to come up and usually the person kind of stands up here and addresses the board?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And you have to use the microphone because it's all being put on the
Thank you.
internet.
Is this okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Elena McNamara, Allie for short. Thank you for giving me an opportunity just to come and talk. One thing that I wanted to ask the board about and just see what your thoughts and considerations were was the topic of school safety and security going into the next school year. And so I don't know if a plan has been discussed already. If not, I'm hoping that maybe that's something that can be discussed, and I'd love to hear what it is.
Okay. So just so everyone understands, it's a meeting in public, so we don't like kind of go back and forth and answer
Sure.
your question in the moment, but we can get back to you through email.
Sure.
And definitely let you know, but I feel safe.
Okay.
Feel safe saying yes.
Thank you.
We talked
Yeah.
about it. We talked about it a lot.
Okay.
A lot. So, but thank you for your comment.
Sure.
How
No,
would
I
you like for us
appreciate
to
it.
get back to
Okay. Thank you.
you? Email? Is that?
Yes. And I've been in contact with the board via email. So, and you did reach out to me, so thank you.
Welcome.
I appreciate that.
Okay. We'll get you a response. Any other citizen statements? So moving on to the consent agenda. Can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Vote?
We are at Renee. Renee?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla? Joe?
Yes.
Lizzie?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. Next up are action items. So I'd like a motion to adopt, for the board to adopt the board agreement. Oh, we do? I think all right, so we don't need to call her until item B.
Okay.
So, yeah, so can I get a motion to approve, it's for the board to adopt the board agreements from June 29th, 2022, starting right, creating the new governance team, board self-evaluation special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? That was a really good meeting. I really appreciated that, and it was great to hear from everyone and have the opportunity to work with our new superintendent, Dr. Maychek. And the board agreements were the agreements that we came up with. We already had board agreements in place, but we revised them moving forward. I would say slightly, but in an important way. Okay, roll call vote.
Corey,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Carla, Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
motion carries 6-0.
Okay, so our board president can't be here tonight, but she asked that we call her in for the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the collective bargaining agreement, the 2022 through 2027 collective bargaining agreement. It's a big vote, important vote.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Let me try again.
See if
Yeah.
Renee is still there.
Yeah, would you?
Renee, are you still there?
I
Oh,
she was.
yeah, she was.
Okay. Let me see what that's. I got a text. No.
To continue recording where you left off.
I'll do that.
For quality assurance.
I'm calling her right now. I'll try. Can you talk? I'll try again. Just make sure that this is what I called last time. So we're good.
That's Renee. 624, yeah, that's right.
Is the area code good?
Yep.
That's right.
Wait, it's 847.
This is Renee.
Hey, Renee. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about the agreement or anything? Dr. Maychek, would you like to say anything about about it? Mr. Bobak?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank everyone, not only my administrative colleagues, but the board members, as well as the union team that we spent literally years working on this contract, and it was really a professional, collaborative experience. We spent a lot of time. We got to know each other really well. There are some really good things in this contract to help our union membership. There are some really good things in this contract to help kids. And then there are some things that help the district. So it's really been a win-win and a compromise all the way around. And it would just be really good to have the peace of mind for a 5-year agreement and put a lot of things in place that are sorely needed. And I was really happy to be part of the process. And as I said, just really very much appreciated the honest, collaborative effort all the way around.
I can echo those sentiments completely. This was a unique way of negotiating, and I think it was very effective. There were a lot of hours that went in, so a big thank you to everybody involved, whether you were at the meetings, whether you were just giving input from either side, or just listening to us talk about what we've been talking about. So it was a great process altogether, and I think everybody should be really proud.
Our goals with the negotiations were to have a contract that honored the hard work of our teachers and staff and their excellence. We also wanted to make sure that what we put together was fiscally responsible in a time that's been a little tumultuous in terms of just the economic outlook. We also wanted to improve our educational community. We wanted to address key needs and take care of some really important things that needed to change. And that required that we work together, that we collaborate, that we go through and negotiate and from a place that really was trying to do what was best for the community, but also for the education quality of the school in a lot of different ways. And we had some folks who really worked very hard on this contract, and I think we got to a good place. I think we got to a very good place. So, does anyone have any other? Want to thank Sharon Ande and Beverly and the Teachers Union for being such great partners in the process. We have to thank our administrators, Dr. Machek and your administrative team, Dr. Casey, who's now relaxing comfortably in Arizona and not at the board meeting tonight. You worked really, really hard on putting this together, and we appreciate it. And it gives us peace of mind for 5 years and a better contract. I think we got to a good place. So thank you. Okay. Let's give it one more try with Dr. Amy if we can. She really wanted to vote for this, so I want to honor that. I know it's clunky with this, but let's give it a try.
All right, Renee, if I lose you, I will call back, I promise. Sorry.
Okay.
Conference?
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 8.
Renee, are you still there? Hi, Miss Amon, are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's vote.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Carla, Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, thanks, everybody. Okay, item C. Can I please have the approval of resolution for intervention and proceeding before the Property Tax Appeal Board. Can I please have a motion to approve the attached resolution entitled Resolution Authorizing Intervention and Proceeding Before Property Tax Appeal Board, appointing Petrarca, Gleason, Boyle, and Izzo as legal representatives for the tax levy year 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Would you like to take us through this one?
Yeah, this is annual resolution that we have to approve in the event that we want somebody to intervene at the Property Tax Appeal Board. We're required to have legal counsel, so every year, basically at the start of the year, we just go through this process and select a law firm that we would like to use should that need arise.
Any questions? Roll call vote?
Brianna,
Yes.
Carla, Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, the next item is the approval of 2 certified teachers for middle school core academic support program. Can I please have a motion to approve 2 FTE certified teachers at the middle school for the CAS program at an approximate cost of $130,000?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Take us through this, Dr. Majic?
Oh, yes, well, so as Ms. Drake and I presented last month, this academic program is a little bit different than what's currently in place at the middle school in that it's help in real time during the day for students in reading and language arts, and these 2 teachers would be available concurrent with the students' Explore class schedule, so that theoretically students would either come in for 3 days or 5 days to either get extra help on the unit they're currently working in, or if they've been out, whether it's because of COVID or just illness or broken arm or something and had to miss some school, there's a way to get students caught up on their current assignments as opposed to trying to bring students up to speed on skills or standards. So this is communication between the student's math or language arts teacher and the core academic support teacher, and that's who would be recommending students is the classroom teacher. So there would be a specific goal for the student coming in. I think what's unique about the program is they would be concurrently enrolled in one of their Explore classes, let's say music or art, and so if the student didn't need any extra help or wasn't struggling with a concept, that student has an Explore class to go to, but we would work it out with that, let's say the art teacher, that if the student needed a day or 2 of additional help in math, they would be able to miss the art class to go get that extra help and then just kind of go back into that Explore rotation. It's a model that I've seen used really effectively and really well. It takes a lot of everybody being on the same page, but I found in my own experience that had ancillary benefits in other areas in terms of communication among staff members and teammates. So it's a really good program, and as we shared some of the research last month, that a child at middle school being able to get help during the school day is a foundational cornerstone of the middle school concept, and it currently is not in place at Woodland.
Questions?
I just have a comment. I'm very excited about this. I think this is fantastic, and I can't wait to see what happens and what we can do with this. I think it's really going to make a difference for kids at an age where they really are kind of have to go all in on school and really buy in, and I think it's a great way to provide them what they need. I didn't realize that kids would continue to be enrolled. I mean, I do remember you saying that kids could be in the program only for a few weeks if they needed, but I guess it makes sense that they would still be enrolled in their other classes. So I guess they would it would be a matter of the teacher in the program working with the teacher in the other class to decide which work is excused or which work is missed. I really like this. I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to hearing after this first year how it's gone.
I like the individualized nature of the support. I mean, there's so many kids that need a lot of help, and coming off of the pandemic and still trying to make sure that everybody's getting what they need and we're able to help kids out. I think it's a great thing that we're doing. Anyone else? Roll call.
I think it's great that it can happen during the school day also for those who may not have the opportunity to stay after school or come before school. So it's, you know, it speaks to our equity work also.
Sure does. Okay, vote.
Carla, Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the food service contract with the Special Education District of Lake County for FY23. Can I please have a motion to approve FY23 food service contract to provide meals to CEDAL for the 2022-23 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
CEDAL found themselves in a bit of a bind. Their food service provider discontinued the service. So, and this is service at multiple campuses. So they were scrambling, obviously last minute, to help get some help from different school districts. We're in a position where we can help them. They're just looking for some kitchen space. They'll come over, they'll pick up the meals, they'll work with the transport. We will be billed by Arbor. We will go ahead and invoice CEDAL just the amount that we were billed by Arbor. They've been very appreciative of our ability. We have students that attend, obviously, so we're helping ourselves, basically. So this is a good thing.
Discussion? Vote?
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
and Carla. Motion carries 6-0.
All right, our next item is the approval of the Director of Educational Services. Can I please have a motion to approve the employment of Dr. Jasenia Jimenez, Captain, as Director of Educational Services effective September 6th, 2022?
Motion.
Second. Whoop, 2 seconds.
Discussion?
I'd like to have Dr. Lene Walls, our Associate Superintendent for Educational Services, come up and say a few words about the process and about our candidate.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Majak. Good evening, Board. I am very pleased to welcome Dr. Jimenez, Captain, to our team. I won't go through her resume, but she is highly qualified. She recently earned her doctoral degree in April. She celebrated a milestone birthday in June. I won't tell you which one. And she's ready. We have a process that is rigorous. It is time-consuming. But when we present candidates for the final round, they have been fully vetted. And each time, Dr. Jimenez, Captain, has been ready. I walk away energized because she's so excited to join our team. She has worked with DACA. She's worked with immigration. She's worked with special education. She's worked with general education. She's worked with early childhood all the way through transition and so many other groups in between. And I think that your approval is the right decision tonight, and I'm so excited to have her join us. With her tonight, she has her husband, Jim, and her children, Dimitri and Marissa, to celebrate with her, and I just want to welcome you, and we look so forward to working with you.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you so much to the board for your approval, and Dr. Majek and Dr. Walls. It was a long process, but I am so grateful and thankful. It was very professional. I was so impressed every step of the way. I am so honored to be a part of the Woodland family, not only as an educator, but also as a community member of Gurnee for the past 15 years. It is a dream. I am so ready to be your Director of Educational Services, so thank you so much.
Let's do
Board
this.
members?
I'm excited.
Yeah, let's vote.
Let's do this, yeah.
Ready, we go.
Okay. Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Yes.
We're happy to have you. Before we go forward. Okay. Next up, we're on to reports and discussion items. The first is a written report and presentation by School Resource Officer Kelly Hansen. Detective Kelly Hansen from the Gurnee Police Department provides a resume included in the packet, and we'll share a PowerPoint, including your goals as the district's appointed school resource officer. Welcome.
Well, Officer Hansen getting started, could I also recognize some of our audience members?
Yeah.
So I'd like to recognize Detective Commander Golan and Detective Gaylor. You guys have been amazing in working with our school district, and I just want to say thank you for all the support that you have provided and continue to provide in leadership, and to our public comment about making sure that our kids and our staff safety is your first priority. Very grateful. So thank you for being here, and thanks for all you do.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hansen. I am an officer, well, I guess now detective with the Gurnee Police Department. So I'd like to thank you guys for having me to introduce myself. I'm very excited about this opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. So I have a little presentation, just a little bit about myself, so you guys get to know me and then what my goals are for the position. So I myself am a wife and a mother of 2 small children, so I understand how important safety is, especially to the parents out there. My background is I have my bachelor's degree from the University of Central Florida in pre-law and criminal justice, and I also have my master's degree in criminal justice from the University of Central Florida. Also, while I was in college, I served as the vice president of finance for a fraternal organization that I was a part of, where I was responsible for maintaining a budget of over $150,000. I've been here about 10 years with the village, and it's been a great 10 years. And the specialties that I have held include a juvenile officer, crisis intervention, evidence technician, I'm a car seat safety tech, and a peer support team member. And for community engagement, I do a lot of things within the community. I'm not sure if some of you have even seen it. The senior community group liaison, every Valentine's Day, we ask the community to send in Valentines so we can then distribute them to the seniors that are inside a facility who don't necessarily have a lot of visitors, so this way they feel that love throughout the year. And then I've also been in charge of some neighborhood watch neighborhoods and the apartment complexes that we have in town. I like to be kind of a liaison between us and our department and those managements. So my goals for this position, and I'm going to kind of tell a story that happened earlier today to kind of go into my goals. Earlier today, I got called to our lobby for a kid who was a little scared. He is a band member at Woodland Middle, and he was scared about the parade in light of all the things that have been happening. So he wanted reassurance that the police department was doing everything we could to keep the community safe. So I spoke with him and his father, and I let them know we are taking extra precautions. I couldn't tell him exactly what those precautions were, but I wanted to ease his mind. And that, to me, just kind of speaks volumes to the position and how I want to handle this. I want to make the students and the staff feel safe, whether it be at a parade or it be at school. So our number one priority is to promote that safety and identify anything that we see that needs to be improved. And I want to build a good partnership with administration so we can continue to build that relationship, the safety, find concerns. If there's anything that we need to improve on, I want to be a part of that. And going back to the call I had earlier in the lobby, those relationships are really important because those relationships that those children have with the police, those are going to follow them into adulthood. So I want to make sure that how they see us is in a positive light. So I want to be the kind of like the first person that they turn, or that they think they can turn to. We want to be their friend. And to provide that mentorship, I want students to be able to feel like they can come to me, that I will support them, that I can build that relationship with them, like I said, that will last a lifetime. And I know that the school has mandates that they have to go through with, being involved in law enforcement. I will be there every step of the way to do whatever I need to help the school meet those mandates. So it was a short presentation, but I'm looking forward to serving the community and the school. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions?
Just a comment. That story, as heartbreaking as it is about that child, is, you know, it really does kind of encapsulate what our kids are thinking and feeling, and it's so demonstrative about what it is that we need to be providing to kids, you know, and when they come to school, they sometimes, you know, have fears that we didn't have when we were that age, and so to know that, you know, that's a priority for you is really important. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we're on to a written report on the elementary SIP plan. Dr. Thomas, Associate Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, and Brian Wolbert, Principal Elementary, have provided written information on the elementary SIP plan. It's also included in your packet of goals established each year. Dr. Thomas, is there any additional information you'd like to share?
I don't think so, but I'd like to just pass Mr. Wolbert. I think provide a little bit more detail if he's got anything to share.
Yes, just this is this is just an ongoing process as part of the school improvement plan is just an ongoing process as the elementary school. If you recall from 3 years ago, our designation from the state of Illinois that we were underperforming, so just continue working on that. I know the pandemic has set us back, unfortunately, with some of our objectives, but one of the things that I'm very much looking forward to is continuing to work with our teaching and learning department as we continue to develop common assessments for all of our students and align those to the Common Core standards, obviously, to ensure that all of our students are achieving to the same level and we have those same high expectations for all of our students. So if there are any questions, I certainly could address them, but just looking forward to continuing this work at the elementary school.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. All right, the next item up on the agenda, written information on the TRS Supplemental Savings Plan. Chris Bobek, Associate Superintendent, has provided written information on the mandated supplemental savings plan. Chris, would you like to add any information for the board?
Sure. This has been a back and forth and back and forth. We brought this to the board, I think, end of last year, beginning of this year. The plan that TRS brought forth, there were some issues with that the ISB and the IASBO did not feel was the best plan because it gave the school districts too much liability. Probably most significantly was the fiduciary liability that it passed on to the school districts, even though it was not our plan and it was not our vendor who was the plan provider. And somehow we came up with being the ones that had the fiduciary liability. So it's gone back and forth and back and forth, and we delayed our application. And what TRS has done is they are currently working on an updated resolution, and we believe this one will be the last resolution because it does alleviate the district of that fiduciary liability. So it's not out just yet, but I wanted to put this in front of the board because it could be out, and it could be an action item either next month or the following month. The plan itself, September 30th is the deadline. We have to have our application in by then, and there's some significant changes that we'll have to make at the district when we hire staff that go along with this TRS plan as well. So I wanted to get it out there as a report now, just in case it's ready to go for the next board meeting.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. All right, next up is written information on the elementary school central office bid. Information on the bid was provided by Mr. Bobek. Do you have any additional information you can take us through?
This will be the bid take two. Just wanted to get this in front of the board again. I believe the plan's going to be, we'll have the action item in August. We'll look to have the bid specs out in September, and we're either looking for a September or potentially October approval. So, where we're hoping that we get more than one bid response as well.
Does anyone have any questions? Neither do I. The receipt of Freedom of Information Act requests. There was one FOIA for the month of July. Can you provide us with any additional information, Chris?
Yes, I can. That FOIA came from, give me one second Sorry, I had it up. That was on the 29th of June. We had a request from the PSRP Support Staff Union of CCSD 4060 in Grays Lake requesting program assistant, teaching assistant, classroom assistant, media assistant, and the like, or job equivalent. They were looking for salaries for starting staff. They were looking for that for custodians, as well as nurses, health service coordinators, or job title equivalents. And they wanted existing, and they also wanted fiscal year 23, which is unavailable by the time we responded.
So we responded.
We did respond on 7/7, on July 7th.
Okay. All right, so status of correspondence. We're going to discuss first the correspondence to the board, the direction on, I skipped something. Okay, board improvements and operations is next. So the first is announcements and committee reports. Do any board members have any announcements from committees to share?
Policy committee has not met recently. We're going to reinstitute meetings come fall.
The finance committee did not meet this month. We'll have something. I'll have something out to the finance committee soon. On a meeting date.
Yeah.
We have. There's a lot going on down in elementary school right now.
Middle school.
And a lot at the middle school.
Okay. So that brings us to board improvement status requests and future board items. Are there any future board items that any members would like to add to a future agenda?
I am still really hoping we will discuss a community agenda or some changes to our agenda. We had talked about that at the Starting Right workshop, and just wanted to come back to that.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Anyone else?
I just wanted to add, I forgot to add during committees, the last two Ed-Red meetings have been, CEDAW meetings have been during special meetings that this board has had, so we weren't able to be there or send somebody else to attend. The next one is in August, and I'll be at that one. And then as far as Ed-Red, there is an interesting summer series about SEL. The next one upcoming, I think on August 3rd, is about SEL and community. I'm planning to go to attend, so I just wanted to mention that if anybody's interested. And there's another one too, I can't remember what the last one is.
Okay, great. Status of correspondence. So correspondence to the board and direction on responses. There was one correspondence sent to the board. Dr. Machik provided a response included in the packet. Does anyone have any questions about whether an additional response should be sent? Some questions, ideas, suggestions?
No, I just actually, and it was Mr. and Mrs. McNamara that sent a very thoughtful email, and I know that was forwarded to the board. I responded also, and the way that I left it, I'm sorry, I haven't checked since 4 o'clock or whatever, but I would be very interested in meeting with Mr. McNamara and you if you'd like, that we could maybe talk about some of your concerns in a bit more detail. So, yes, I'll wait to hear back. Sure. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Okay, the second item of discussion, response to a letter by Monique Restituyo. At the June 23rd governing meeting, the board was provided from Mrs. Restituyo an administrative procedure about student and staff memorial guidelines. The board asked for this item to be tabled until the July meeting for further discussion. A letter and administrative procedure are included in the packet. Okay, does anyone have any questions, any discussion about this one?
I mean, it kind of seemed like the policy was a little bit in conflict with what had been going on. So I just wanted to do we feel like we have resolution to that with the?
I do. Yeah, I feel like the policy is pretty clear. In this case, the policy seems to be that there's a process, and that in addition to the process, there's a process, and intentionally so that we don't begin the process of memorializing things around the district, just kind of on a person requests it type of basis. That there's an official procedure. say that street back?
Yes.
So I feel like that kind of brings it to resolution. If anything's going to happen, it will happen through that process.
Okay.
Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. I feel like that's fair. That's why we have it in place. I also want to thank Ms. Restituto for her, I mean, being so moved by a district employee that you want to memorialize them is really pretty beautiful. And the fact that she had such a positive experience, I mean, she wrote that letter from Connecticut. She and her family have since moved out of the district and was still thinking about that and felt really strongly about it. And so I want to honor that officially at this meeting, that it's really incredible when a person makes such an impact on a family's life that they think to write that letter and send it. That means a lot. And I don't want to be dismissive of what she wants by any stretch of the imagination. But we have a policy, we have a process in place. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything?
Well, I was just going to, the point to having the process and the policy speaks to, and even the term memorial is for either a staff member, a student, or community member, or parent, once they've passed, what the process is. We really haven't addressed memorials for current staff members. So.
Okay. All right, so that brings us to citizen statements. Has anyone signed up? Want me to go check? No? Okay. Anybody out there signed up? Is there any need to return to closed session? So no. Okay. Seeing there is not a need to return to closed session and there is no additional business to discuss, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Renee,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Carla, Joe,
Yeah.
Lizzie.
Yes.
Motion carries.